Hi guys, thank you for joining. So today we'll have CyberArk day 3 and day 4 session. So which we will cover the prerequisite, the what exactly need to install the CyberArk. So first we need to install VMware workstation. Uh, so the workstation is needed to install the software, which is CyberArk software itself and Windows Server. So these the part which can be taken care by your infra team. So just have to provide the requirement to the VMware team or the admin team, whoever handles the infrastructure. And your job is to install CyberArk application and manage it. So VMware workstation we can use for our lab purpose. So in that we will install the server. So in the server we will install digital vault and wait somebody joining. Hi Jeez, thanks for joining.
Hi.
Yeah, so today we'll cover the CyberArk prerequisite to install the lab. So in
Perfect.
CyberArk, we need VMware and Windows Server. So VMware we already installed, and you can install any of the Windows servers. But in CyberArk requirement, you can install 2016 or later version. So first installation is Digital Vault, which we call Primary Vault, which I already introduced in our previous sessions. We need minimum 2 GB of RAM and 20 GB of space of the hard drive. And the component servers, there will be separate servers will be installing called component server. That is PVWA, CPM, and PSM servers. And that also we need minimum 2 GB of RAM and 25 GB of space for component servers. And domain server will be having a separate server which is a domain server on which we will be installing Active Directory. And this part is mostly done by the infra team, but from the CyberArk perspective you just have to manage your CyberArk application. As I mentioned, it's just an independent application. And then we will be also installing we will be needing DR Vault. So DR Vault is a replica of your primary vault. With that also required 2 GB of RAM and 20 GB of space. All right. So then
Yes.
we have uh, introduction to CyberArk. That is like supposed to be covered in day 4, but day 3, because this is just a theoretical part I'm covering up. Once I have the lab license ready and all, then I'll do the installation part. So just in covering up the introduction of CyberArk Vault, that is the main heart of the CyberArk, which I introduced in my previous sessions as well. So what is vault means? The vault store the details of the username, password, text files, business details, any confidential information to the safe. Okay. It also encrypt the data and save the encrypted data. The encryption and decryption mechanism is also job of CyberArk Vault itself. So it use AEC 256. It's kind of a technology which encrypt the data. I don't know deep about it, but that's how the encryption method it used to encrypt and decrypt the data. So when you install the vault, you must have the administrator access, which can edit or delete the files. And in terms of firewall, CyberArk allow communicate to only to the vault using 1858 port that we discussed in our earlier class as well. So CyberArk has its own firewall, which does not allow the Windows firewall to be working. So CyberArk uh, application itself has inbuilt firewall which allow to communicate to Active Directory on port number 1858 only. Okay, so you have to configure the host file into your Active Directory servers and uh, you know so the Vault installation prerequisite is you must have Windows Server 2016, 2019, 2022. You need to have .NET framework, .NET 4.8. Windows Server must be part of the work group. Then you need to have uncheck all the firewall items except IPv4. This is only for increasing the security of the vault server. Okay, and is it my screen visible? No. Okay, I think I was showing my screen.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, firewall. It will. My screen is visible, right?
Yes, screen is visible.
Thank you. So as I mentioned that you know it has a own firewall rule. So this is the prerequisite. Like when you install the architect components of the Vault server, it the Vault has the database, and it's a separate SQL database used. Then it works on REST API. Then event notification engine. Vault also has processed the trigger events based on the Vault actions. Like if somebody is trying to change the password again and again, somebody is trying to access the service account password, or somebody is trying to access the most you know uh, frequent um, usage passwords, or most rotated passwords, trying to copy the password. So this kind of alert will be generated and notification will be sent to the administrator or the owner of the safe. Then harden network appliance, as I mentioned, it hardened the servers using the 1858 port. Okay, so core security principle, it works on zero trust architecture. Like it does not trust on any account, no matter what permission it has. It always rotate the passwords based on the configuration. Least privilege, user receive the minimum permissions needed for their roles. So it only give the permission which is required for that particular role on the safe wise or the account wise. Define defense in depth, multiple security layers, protect credentials, like I showed in my last slide sessions and all. Then we have vault
Uh,
installations. Yeah, go ahead.
can you just elaborate what is zero trust model?
Zero trust model is it's a complete different topic, which is a Microsoft zero trust model, which get applied on all the applications, and all the the components of the it's not zero trust is like not a CyberArk component, but it's a method of trusting none of the count. So it's just the FYI knowledge that it follow the zero trust method. But if you, as I mentioned, it's a Microsoft technology which follow the zero trust. So it's a complete different article. If I show you here, zero trust Microsoft TechNet. So I'll just share this video for the deeper, but since this CyberArk just show you that it does not allow you to, communicate with any other accounts and all. So this is the framework of zero trust. Since you asked the questions, so each account has, no matter if it's a human account or agent or a service account or any endpoints, API call or an access control evaluations or network device. So it does not, this zero trust framework does not trust on any of the application call of authentication. It makes sure that every time it re-authenticate from the AD or from the Azure AD or from the application whichever being used. So in our case, if you are using CyberArk, then also it will be using the CyberArk authentication based on the zero trust architecture which Microsoft designed. It controls the identities, it controls the endpoints, it controls the network infrastructure, it controls the data, right?
Okay. So is it like hardening the security or hardening the configuration,
Correct.
like adding multi-factor authentication?
Yeah, yeah,
Does
yeah.
that come?
Yeah, that is also, see, that also the part of zero trust architecture itself. The trust architecture itself is a methodology of Microsoft to follow the best practice in all over their components. No matter if it's a data security, no matter it's an identity security, it's an IAM security, it's a PAM security, it's a SQL security, or it's a non Microsoft products security. So it follow, it's umbrella of cyber security. So that umbrella has multiple towers which comes under zero trust.
Okay, understood.
No matter if it's a conditional access, it's an application integration, it's a shared account, it's a, you know uh, tenant to tenant migrations, it's an RBAC rule, everything follows the zero trust methodology. Even if it's a Windows account or non-Windows account, even it's a Linux account, it's a database, it's a third-party resource, it's a no matter which application is coming from which network, but it all comes under zero trust methodology. Like, Microsoft doesn't allow you to trust any a network, because most of the hacking and most of the attacks happens based on the internal attacks, the bad intention, right? So if the hacker is already, if the person who has bad intention already working in a company and is trying to steal the environment, then it will ask the authentication every single time whenever he perform any activity. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a separate, complete different technology. We can cover it in a deeper in our later session, if you want, or if somebody, But I would request to go through this kind of articles first, or there's 100 of videos available as well to understand it deeper. But just to answer your question, it's a methodology, method of Microsoft which helps you to protect your network, and it follows all the towers, no matter if it's a Linux account, it's a non-Windows account, or it's in a CyberArk, or it's in a Zscaler, or it's in conditional access, or it's a ping federation, or it's an identity Q identity. So there are multiple, MIM or multiple way of authenticate of AD or Active Directory or Azure AD, but zero trust applies on all the towers, which comes under. It's just a method of trusting no one. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So if we go back to my minimum requirement of installing Vault, so you need 4 core of processor, then you need 16 GB RAM. That is recommended, but we can use 2 GB as well. But if you have production server, it's always recommended to have 16 GB minimum. Then storage of 500 GB SSD. Then this is like recommendations of CPU RAM for configuration. That's similar. Then you have Windows Server 16 or later version. You need, if you want to install on Linux and all. I haven't done on Linux, so I'll config, show only. Windows 1. So 4.7 2 or later. So in our scenario, we'll be using 4.8. Then we have database SQL, dedicated SQL. You have to install 2016 or later. And if you are installing some kind of automations for agents creations or authentication agent using Python, then Python 3.6. That's a I get created this from using the Chat GPT, so it has given the all the available options. So, but in our scenario, we'll not be using Python and all. Then it has a firewall rule, which I mentioned. It use 1858 and 443 for HTTPS. Inbound connection all will only accepted by 1858. Then we have DNS. Both forward and reverse DNS must be configured in our Active Directory. Then we have network isolations, that vault should be in isolated network always. And to make it isolations configuration, you need to connect to the networking team. IP address configuration, you always configure IPv4. There also, that part also done by networking team. You just have to provide your requirement. Okay. So the database prerequisite, as I mentioned, that it use SQL database. That is also not your part. You just need to inform the SQL team to install the database and provide the database URL endpoints to configure CyberArk configurations. Okay. Then we have certificates. It use the SSL and TSL certificates, self signed on certificates, or third-party certificates. Then we have vault installations files, like you have master passwords. The master password is the most critical password, which mostly client have. This password is always used as a glass break account. It has more privilege than a administrator. So master password is always critical, and it's always with the client, so or the super admin of the CyberArk. Okay. Then we have authentication, like LDAP authentication happen to the AD. Then they have disaster recovery accounts. If you want to have secondary account for disaster recovery DRs and all. Then we have Vault main configuration files, log files. So the logs get shipped always on program data, CyberArk, Vault, then config and vault.ini file. So this is the default location for Windows, and for Linux it has a different location. But vault.ini is the file where you can see the latest logs, what is exactly happening with the files. All right. Then we have key configuration sections, like the host name, network host name of the vault server, vault.company.com, and the port 1858. Then we have database type, which is always SQL database, which CyberArk uses. Then we have sections like database server IP address. All this configuration is done by the database team and your networking team. The HTTP port configurations and certificates configurations also taken care by your networking team. You just have to provide them the requirement. Okay. So then we have a password manager. So the password manager enable disable password for the accounts, and event notification engine, it generate the events. So this is the services which is running on uh, CyberArk server. The password manager service will take care of the uh, enabling and disabling the, if this service is enabled and disabled, it can work the manage the passwords. Then ENE service, it can be enabled disabled, but it's uh, responsible to generate the notification if any critical or confidential information being linked or any suspicious activities being triggered on the vault. Then we have privilege session manager service. So this service is also take care of the, which I mentioned as a PSM account. So that is the service should be enabled always. So this is how it get impact with the PSM server. Then we have web service. It can be also disabled, enabled. It take care of the REST API calls, which is critical service, on which are the mandatory service which should be always running on your vault server. Then we have LDAP address. Like LDAP is the kind of query which we do it on Active Directory whenever we have any account get authenticate or any LDAP query happens. LDAP query always happens on port 389. That is SSL certificate used to authenticate any user's query, getting the information from Active Directory. So that's the default same port 389 being used in Active Directory. That is not part of CyberArk, but just it's covering because it's a part of the good to know information. Then search base, DN4 search is like it used the uh, domaining name for the search in terms of which we use in Active Directory as well. Same, it's being used on CyberArk as well. Then we have log type. We have trace.log, which is saved on vault.logs program path files. For Linux, this is the different path. The purpose of this type log is detailed debugging information whenever we are going to troubleshoot any log issues or what exactly happened. I remember there was some service was stopped when we were installing the patch into our production server. So the service was stopped and we couldn't identify from the logs that when was the service was exactly stopped from when the service sync was not working from Active Directory. So that's how we use the logs trace.log file to identify the issue. Audit log files are the program files stored on the vaults and logs, which you use to user activity that who has done what. If somebody deny that they have not changed the password or somebody deny that they have not logged in during this hours, you can use the audit logs. Then we have
So
system logs.
trace logs are like what exactly they are? Trace logs
Generally,
are
this is being used for troubleshooting purpose, like detailed debugging. If you're trying to install some patch, or if you're trying to install some agent downloaded from CyberArk component, if you open a case, or some sync is not working, some safe is going to rebuild. So that kind of installation part or the troubleshooting part, if you're doing, then you do the trace. Similar we have in Exchange, right? In Exchange, we have trace logs that you're trying to install a hybrid environment, hybrid HCW you're trying to run, but
correct.
somewhere it got stuck, where it got stuck. So you go and look at logs, installation logs, right? Similarly, we have if you're trying to install AD Connect, for example, then in AD Connect also we have logs get generated. So you can go to the logs and you can see the whether the account got authenticated, whether it was a password issue, whether it was a permission issue. So that information you can see into the AD logs, right? Sorry, into AD Connect installation logs when we install AD Connect in Exchange. If you try to correlate with the AD background or a Exchange background. Similarly, it's a trace.log files which helps you to identify where was the issue at the time of installing that part, that type of components, especially the
Okay.
agents, especially the the browsers of CyberArk or the authentication method. There are default agents available on CyberArk website, official website. You just have to download them and install them based on your permission. If you're unable to install them, what kind of error you're getting, you can go to these trace logs and you can identify where is the problem. Sometimes it's not a permission issue, sometimes it's a credential get expired, sometimes it's a um, port is not open, sometimes it's a network is temporarily unavailable, sometimes it's a source is not available, sometimes it's a target is not available, sometimes it's a safe is down, sometimes it's safe is locked out. So that kind of errors you can find out while installing some kind of new components or existing component troubleshooting. Okay. So similarly, we have system logs. System logs are system event logs, which you can identify any critical errors and all. This is similarly like you have Windows event logs. Then we have web service logs. So if you have services down, then you can prefer these logs. You can uh, read the service was down, when was the down, API operations kind of service. I haven't got that kind of issues ever, but it's good to know information. Log file details, trace log contains detailed de- debugging level login information, useful troubleshooting for system issues, can grow large and quickly, should be archived regularly. So these are the log files which get get higher in size. So you keep on archiving them. Recommendation by Microsoft by CyberArk is last 7 days. Logs are always be archived. Later it can be deleted on. And generally, most of the companies for service accounts and all, they keep the logs for 30 to 90 days depending on their available size.
Okay, so do we have like a subscription or something which allows to increase the size of the logs to store it for like for a month or two?
And that depends on your size. The more size you have, if you have on premise, then you can save it more also, but there's a retention policies you need to create. And these retention policies similar like we have exchange online policies, right? Retention tag, retention policies. So this is by default it's 7 days, but you can change it to 30 to 90 days as well. Then we have audit
Understood.
logs. The audit logs records all the user actions, credential access attempts, that how many times he has tried to copy this credential, how many times he has logged in. Critical for compliance and security investigations. If somebody deny that he has not installed or he has not changed the password, then we immutable and digital signed. Every log gets signed by their login ID, which is being used to log into the machine. Must be retained per regulatory requirement, often 7 years. That depends on company to company. Mostly banking sectors and hospitalities, they keep this information for 7 years. Okay. Then we have system logs. So system logs capture the level of events and the alerts, including the shutdown and the services, when was the last time the patch got installed, and the useful of the monitoring and vault health information. Then we have log configuration best practices, set appropriate log event, and implement of the log rotations, manage disk space. So you need to always have the utility server which takes the backup of your CyberArk encrypted files. CyberArk has their own mechanism to encrypt their files in the logs. Normal user cannot, it cannot be readable by a normal user. It can be only decrypt by the CyberArk application only on the dedicated server where the utility application is being installed for a security purpose. It's not like any admin can log in there and can read the logs. So forward log to centralize logging systems. So you can configure the Microsoft security tool. It can be Sentinel, it can be Splunk, it can be other third-party tools based on the company's budget which you are using. Most of the time, company use Sentinel because it's a Microsoft stable product. Then we can monitor audit logs regularly for suspicious activity. We have monitoring team, we have audit team. They ask this kind of activity justifications if the password being changed more than 3 times or 4 times in a day, if the service account being changed, or the rotation being turned off for any service account. For example, if some server ED server being patched, then the ED team will raise a request to the CyberArk team that we don't want this password to be rotated because we are going to perform a change on this account. So if the change is happening and the account password get changed by CyberArk automatically, then they will not be able to log in and it can cause a production issue. So we will ask them to raise a request. The request will come to CyberArk team and you turn off the password rotation for that particular account which is being used during the change process. So that's how the activity being monitoring team and the audit team always keep an eye that which account being post password and what is the ticket number and why it was done, which window it was done for security reasons. Okay. So core vault service we have gone through, like has mandatory services which are, then we have password vault. So password vault, as I mentioned in my previous session, that it's a web application which is uh, the similar features available. It also has the functions like web-based user interface for vault access. It always works with port number 8100 for end user, but password vault will never communicate to Active Directory directly. It will always connect to vault first using port number 8100, and from vault it will connect to the Active Directory using port number 5818. Okay. Then we have vault URL. It is always use HTTPS secured connection vault dash hostname dot 811 8100. User interface, it's always web interface. Authentication, it can use the LDAP authentication AD or CyberArk native, depending on which configuration client is asking for. Most of the time it is always use Active Directory authentication, LDAP authentication. Key feature: request release credentials, manage safe, audit logs, and onboarding. So there are two type of password vault. One is end user, which is for user level. So user does not have any access to the admin features, admin roles. One is for CyberArk admins. So CyberArk admin can log into the password vault and can add or remove users or do the changes into safe, move the safe, turn off the password rotations, move the safe, you know, that kind of activity admin can do. One is for end users. End user can log into the password vault, can look for the account or the server he's going to access, and can connect to that account using the their own credentials. So that's how the password vault has two versions. One is for end users, one is for admins. It's just like admin portal of Office 365. So if you have an global admin, you have different features. If you are just a user, you can only access the Outlook web access and Teams and features, right?
Okay,
The,
so it's a console
it's a
that
console.
like
Yeah, it's a
so
web
that we
console.
use for say 2019 or 22 kind
Correct,
of, right?
correct, correct, correct. That's a web access
Understood.
only console. So then we have PWA capabilities like user self-service credential request. So user can log in there and can, self-service means that they can retrieve the password, they can connect to the accounts, they can uh, check out and check in the accounts, and they can safe management and access delegations. They can review the reporting, audit trails, user activity lifecycle management. So that is a things we can do using PVWA. Then we have Vault Administrator services. So in Vault we have services like why it is not going. Okay. So Vault Administrator services like function administrator management of the Vault conditions, port number 1858. Then we have client CyberArk private client PVWA. So it always called as a private client as well. The CyberArk Vault. Private client is kind of a box which is locked. Either you can use it under on-premise, directly log into the server, or you can use it using the Vault PWA web version. Authentication, always use Vault authentication, like CyberArk authentication it will use, because Vault will authenticate you from the ID, but the PWA will get authenticate from the Vault. Okay. Task, you can user, you can manage user, you can manage policies, you can manage safe, and you can audit and review the reports on the PWA as an admin. So admin service on the PVWA or on the Vault, it can create a user, it can delete user, it can manage or disable the user, security policy configuration, it can review the policies what are configured, it can change the policy based on the ticket number, safe creations and property management. So it can create the safe, it can create the policy management, access rights and permissions assignment, authentication method configurations. This all access will be provided if you have a or vault admin on the vault access. Event notification engine. So as I mentioned, it generates the notification if any events get triggered and it's something it finds suspicious, especially the actions, send email, create tickets, and call uh, webhooks. So depend on configurations of your organization. It can create a ticket or you can send notification emails to the manager, or it can directly open a call to service desk. Okay, so service desk ticket team will open the case or open the bridge with the dedicated team to their management. Okay, so integration, there would be email ticketing tool can be configured if you want to open the ticket automatically. Sentinel or a Splunk tool needs to be configured if you want to send an alert. So similarly, these are the type of integration you can make into the vault. Then ENE event types, user log on log off event type you can configure, account access attempt you can configure, password rotation you can configure, safe permissions change, policy modification, suspicious activity. This kind of type of event you can create for the safety purpose. Okay.
So all related to password, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything related to passwords. It's not only password. Safe is like a
Account.
box. Like in bank, you go to bank and you keep your gold as well. You can keep your property document as well. You can keep your pen drive as well, right? So safe is a kind of folder, and it's your owner of the safe. Then you can keep anything whatever you want. But whatever the information will be saved into the safe, that is your own property. And whenever you come to the bank to open your safe, you need also your key, and the bank will also give you key, and that's how you need two key to open the safe. No matter what's your personal data inside the safe, but safe cannot be accessed without CyberArk. So when you go to the bank, you show your own key, you show your identity card, you show your authentication, you validate that you are the owner of that particular safe, particular locker, and that's how bank will authenticate you, will trust you. Then they will give you a separate key. They will dedicated person will go with you. They'll let you open your locker, and then you can do whatever you want to inside your locker. Same way we have safe in CyberArk. You can save password, you can save credentials, you can save confidential information. It's kind of a folder. You can save any information. Most of the times being used for passwords and policies and confidential information. So that's the highest you know most expensive tool in the market. Only banks and rich company. That's the reason there is no budget uh, for getting salary of a CyberArk resource. If you know good knowledge, then you get good salary in market, because you get hardly engineers of CyberArk in market. Okay.
Yes. Screen close किया?
Many screen close. No, I didn't close it. Let me see. It's visible. You can't see.
I can see your photo on the screen.
Only photo.
Yeah, only photo.
Okay, let me retry it. Stop sharing and screen share. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have services privilege session manager, yeah, PSM. So PSM is one of the component of CyberArk. It records and control the privileged user sessions. So whoever is going to log into, let's suppose AD Connect server or AD Connect server, or sorry, your AD server or a SQL server or any application server. So what exactly user will be doing after logging? So PSM will record everything. Okay, so once it record, it can record the
Understood.
Linux, it can record the Windows, it can record the network device, it can record in a browser, it can record an application, it can record anything. But the only thing is you have to onboard that application to server or whatever, the only first time to the CyberArk. Once you onboard it, then person will be able to PSM will be able to record that session. So
Understood.
playback sessions, full session will be replay on audit. So auditor team will see they're very less auditor team. They generally, whenever any case happens or something happens in the company, then nobody can deny that what they were doing. Let's suppose if you're an AD admin and or you are an on-premise, you are going to install some patch, so you have privilege of installing software. But what if you install some other software or some some malware into the system after getting access? What if you install some kind of keylogger, right? So CyberArk records everything, whatever you do.
Yes.
So it's like not even trusting on admins. That kind of intention. The reason being, this came to the picture because most of the highest attack were found by admin's account got hacked or by intention of bad people, right? Then we have PSM capabilities. PSM can session record, can real-time session monitoring. Let's suppose I want to, I know that there is some change schedule between 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. and Aziz is going to perform the change. So as a manager of Aziz, we will simply open the case with CyberArk, with the CyberArk team, and we'll say that we want the real-time session that what Aziz is doing. Let's suppose manager knows that Aziz don't know how to perform this task, but he got access. He's going to perform to install some change, or he's going to perform some activities like migration activity, or some activities like um, AD sync rerun, or some activities you're going to perform. So manager wants to see how Aziz is going to work. So manager will request for a audit access on that activity, create a ticket, and CyberArk will provide him the audit access for that particular activity, and Aziz can be monitored live. Okay. So sometimes it happens like he put the change request for 2 hours or 3 hours, and installation just took half an hour. So rest 2 hours what he was doing, right? So this kind of activity also being recorded into uh, CyberArk session recording. Then session playback for forensics. If any case happens or any legal team involves, the forensic team asks for a recording, then we have to provide the recordings. Okay, based on the case and the security incidents being raised. Dual control for privilege command session. So dual control playback means meanwhile you can uh, stop the session. Let's suppose uh, if I am recording, if I'm seeing the live session of Aziz in Pune, and I'm in Canada, and I'm monitoring Aziz, that Aziz is trying to uh, run the AD Connect sync, and I suddenly found that he's a global admin and enterprise admin, and he did some blunder, and he's trying to resync the OU completely, and he's trying to full sync the account, which can impact the production. And I know that he's doing something out of the box, or trying to cover his mistake, or something which is not correct. So I can live stop its session. I can directly end its session from mine. Okay, no matter what kind of access he has, but his session will be logged out automatically.
Okay.
Interesting now.
Interesting.
Then Windows Service Status Management, checking services.msc application, PowerShell, get service, CyberArk services, event logs, Linux. Then we have default safes, overview of default safes. CyberArk Vault create several safes during the installation of CyberArk. These safes are essentials for Vault operations and contain critical system information, policies, and configuration. For example, whenever we install Exchange server, we also have some default account gets installed, right? So these default
Correct, correct. I
accounts,
know. These are system accounts.
system accounts. Same way we
Yeah.
have the default safe. So let's
Mm-hmm.
suppose you prepare a locker room in a bank. So whenever you prepare a locker room in bank, so there will be default locker will be created. This locker will contain the information of the critical information, like which locker is being assigned to whom, or the login information, or the access information, that who can enter inside the locker room, kind of the backbone of the most critical information. It will save the default saves. Okay. Then we have a list of safe, like internal vault. We have safe name. You can this is called internal. The purpose of the safe is core system data and vault configuration. So as I mentioned, vault configuration means it will keep the information of the vault, like configuration files, right? Similarly, we have in Exchange, whenever we install, it has three accounts get created into AD Connect whenever we install AD Connect. So one is the service account, one is the sync account, and one is the enterprise password sync account. So these accounts are not visible and this not been frequently used, but in backbone they have the full permission. Without these accounts get created, it and the AD Connect cannot work properly, right? So then we have access, or administrator can have access. This modification should be modified manually. Backup critical for disaster recovery. It has to be backed up regularly. These critical safes. Then we have a password safe. The safe name is password. Purpose is default safe for store. So these were the type of defaults that created. One was for internal vault, one was for passwords, and the one was for shared authentication. So as their name defined, the shared authentication will share the information about the what things are being shared with others. The password safe will contain the password information. The vault internal safe will keep the information of regarding vault, right? Then we have a fourth type of same system safe. It will keep the system level credentials in the data, service accounts, passwords, and all. Then we have PIM administrator. It will keep the privilege identity management administrator details, like who's exactly admin, the most critical, the value and the confidential information. Then we have password manager temporary. So like in we have temporary mailbox, temporary logs, right? So similarly, if the primary password is not working, we can reset the temporary password and you can glass break the account and worse scenarios. So those kind of accounts it will save. So this kind of a default save get created. So that is also one of the interview questions in L3 I generally asked during in TCS interviews. So, or any interview might have been, if you face interview, then they will ask you this question, that what are the default safe get created when you install the CyberArk. So that is only happens during your implementation job, or kind of, because generally you don't get that kind of uh, chance to install CyberArk and all. Similarly, we are an Exchange admin from 10-15 years, but you hardly get chance to install CyberArk, right? Sorry, Exchange, but you still have this good knowledge. It's good to learn it. Then we have safe property and access control, like safe name, unique identifier. So safe always have the unique character, which is 2 to 28 characters of the name. The purpose of the safe, it contain the documentations. It can contain your jewelry. It can contain, like in your bank locker. You can contain your envelope. You can contain your property document. You can contain your, uh, you know, your girlfriend's first gift. So depends on what you want to keep in your safe, right? The owner, primary administrator, responsible location, organization, hierarchy path, wherever the organization wants to keep the. So it's depend on bank where they want to keep the safe. And default folder holds newly created accounts. Then we have safe permission. So these are the type of permissions we have into our safe. So, like in shared mailbox, we have permissions, right? Send as permissions, send on behalf of permissions, and full access. Similarly, on safe, we have permissions. So list account permissions, we can view an account's name of the data of the metadata. Then we have read permissions, retrieve the credentials. Then we have update passwords, modify the account password themselves. So user, how you need to, why you need to understand, whenever you get a request that I want the safe permission, so you need to ask the user that which kind of permission you need. So for a user, they don't know what is the safe permission. So you simply ask them, give me the mirror ID. Like, similarly, what exactly you want to do. Because if somebody want to back up the safe, that you cannot give them update password permission. Somebody just want to read passwords. They just want to copy the password and want to use it manually. Then you give them the read password permission. Somebody wants to list the account, that how many accounts are available. Then you give them the list account permissions, right? So these are the safe permission. Like similarly, we have in our shared mailbox and all. Okay. Then we have safe management best practice. Create organizations create safe as per the business unit. Use meaningful names and descriptions. Similarly, we have in shared mailbox, whenever create mailbox, we must have meaningful names, right? Then we have organization safe in logical folder hierarchy. Like we create our OUs and hierarchy with logical names, right? We cannot just simply create any folder, any OU based on our interest. It's always we follow the naming hierarchy in the company. Then we have associate owners and managers, like depending on who needs the permission and as per the RBAC or as per the request. Then we have access control, apply least privilege principles, grant minimum necessary permissions. It's like regular regularly audit the safe rights, remove the. It's like monthly or weekly audit access control that we have in Exchange as well, right? Then we have monitoring and maintenance, review activity, log activity, monitor authorize access templates, and then we have archive old safes. If some safes are not being used more than 6 months or 8 months, we can simply ask the owner to delete them, or to to keep the our environment safe. Like we have monthly activity in Active Directory to delete our uh, users and offboard the mailboxes and reuse the license. Similarly, we have license for CyberArk as well. Okay. Then we have create custom safe. If you have a requirement to create a custom safe, then you'll get a ticket from the owners of the or the end users that they want to create a specific safe. You log into the CyberArk administrator PWA, you navigate to the safe management section, click on new safe, click on. Similarly, we create a our Exchange portal, we create a shared mailbox or a user mailbox or a group. It's like a portal based, so you can. It's not a rocket science, but if you know the backbone behind it, how the technology works, what is the safe, why it's being used, why we need permissions, what is this behind creating all this. It's a normal configuration. You simply follow the document. There's always documents we follow, SOP and all, and that's how we create the safe. We hardly get chance to get a new safe create. It's not like a normal activity. It's a very critical activities. Okay. So that's all for today, Aziz. I hope it was fruitful and you understood it, whatever I covered. Hello, I'm audible. Okay, then. Thank you for today, and it was nice talking to you guys. Thank you so much. I'll stop the recording. Bye.